Good morning, and we're in chapter 13, and Saul is called to be king, and Saul reigned 1 year when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, so now it's 2 years since he's been made king. I'm not sure what happened in those 2 years, but he was gathering support, I'm sure. Saul chose 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash, and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. Now Jonathan is his son. This also gives the age of Saul, I guess. If Jonathan is a grown man, then Saul couldn't be even though he's the youngest of his father's sons, I believe. He wouldn't have just been a teenager because of all this. Jonathan was old enough to be in not only an army, but in the army, but a commander. So 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin, and the rest of the people sent every man to his tent. And Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew the trumpet throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." So he's saying, hey, look what we've done. This is what happens if the Philistines come in. And Israel heard say that Saul had smitten a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also had an abomination with the Philistines, and the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal. Basically, abomination in this sense is Saul saying, we're at war. We're fighting the Philistines now, and we've attacked a garrison. That's sort of the report there. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel. 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash eastward from Bethaven. That is a lot of people. Seeing that Saul was able to pull together 3,000 men, and now there's 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen. If you look on the side, though, we have how many Philistines and chariots were prepared for battle. Most scholars agree that the figure of 30,000 Philistine chariots is inaccurate. Some Bible translations change the number to 3,000. Errors of this sort appear in the Bible for a variety of reasons, including mistakes in translation, possibly exaggerations from later scribes. So people don't think, all of a sudden there's 30,000 when there's only 6,000. And you can see this. What I like to get out of this is that there was a big army, and Saul's army wasn't quite as big. That's what I'm getting from this right now. Even if you cut that down to 3,000 chariots and 1,000 horsemen, that's still more than what Saul had. And I think that's the point of this, is that they were in...
You'll need to unlock your device first.
they were in a situation where they needed the people to rally around them, and we'll see that here. And when the people of Israel saw that they were in a strait, meaning for the people who were distressed, they were caught. Basically, they couldn't move. Is what I'm getting from that. A strait, meaning narrow. Then the people did hide themselves in caves and in thickets, in rocks, in high places, and pits. So those that weren't fighting did hide themselves, and some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and the people followed him trembling, and he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. So Samuel had appointed a time when they'd meet up again. He's got these people that are following him, and he pulled them in from different places. He already had 3,000 men, and then he sent out word, and most of the Israelites hid themselves, it sounds like. They're going, oh, this is too scary, we shouldn't be doing this. And Saul said, bring hither a burnt offering to me and peace offerings, and he offered a burnt offering. Where does Saul get off doing that? Why would he think he could? Well, first of all, he was anointed as king, and somehow he's taken that as, I need to do this, and I'm a king, so I can do whatever I want, I guess. He steps over his boundaries. He doesn't see where his boundaries lie and where the Lord's boundaries lie. And we'll probably get into that with David and his preparation of the temple. He never goes beyond what he can do. He does everything he can do, but he never goes beyond it. And it came to pass that as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. He seems quite proud of himself. He doesn't see the problem with what he's done. And Samuel said, what hast thou done? And Saul said, because I saw the people were scattered from me, and that thou camest not. So he's blamed the prophet within the days appointed. It seems that he has a pretty good argument there, but it's not right. Samuel, I don't know why he was late, but it seems that he came when he was supposed to come, but there was a miscommunication, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. He wants to pull the people together. What better way than to bring them to a sacrifice to the Lord? Therefore, said I, the Philistines will come down upon me in Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. Now, this is another thing where there are certain things that must be done, but there's also but it must be done in the Lord's way. I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offering. So he's saying, it's important that I do this. I did it for the people. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. I forced myself to do it. And Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. He's saying, I chose you. You would have had a kingdom from father to son for as long as possible if you would have kept the commandment of the Lord. It goes way back to Moses. Everybody knows who is the one that gives the burnt offerings. It's not the king. It's not the judges. It's not those people. You think it is the priests and the high priests. Samuel happens to be a priest and a judge, a high priest, actually, I believe, and a judge. And so he was able to do that. And remember, that's one thing with this whole story is Samuel is behind Saul to this point, and the people see this, and so the judge that has been pulling them together is now behind a king and supporting him, and Saul is well, he's goofing it up. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord sought him a man after his own heart, and we all know who that is, and we'll learn about David soon. And the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. And Samuel arose and gat him up from Gilgal and Gibeah and of Benjamin. And Saul numbered the people that were present with him, about 600 men. And Saul and Jonathan his son, and the people were present with him, abode in Gibeah of Benjamin. But the Philistines encamped in Michmash, and the spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. So these are raiders. And one of the company turned into the way that leadeth to Ophrah, unto the land of Sheol, and another company turned the way to Beth Horon, and another company turned the way of the border that looketh in the valley of Shibam toward the wilderness. And now there was no smith found throughout the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. So at this point, it seems the Philistines have quite an influence, because nobody could sharpen swords and things or equipment except they go to the Philistines. And the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man their shear and his coulter, and his axe. Coulter is something that they used to dig in the ground, and his mattock. And yet they had a file for the mattocks, which is again something that they used to dig with, and for the coulters and for the forks and for the axes to sharpen the goads. So it came to pass that in the day of the battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan, but Saul and Jonathan his son was found. So they had swords, but everybody else had equipment, farm equipment. And the garrison of the Philistines went out to the passage of Michmash. So now we've got this army coming in, and we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. One thing I didn't do, what I was going to do, is look at these 2 chapters here really quick. Chapter 11, the Ammonites encamp against Israelites. Jabesh Gilgal, Saul rescues them and defeats the Ammonites. His kingship is renewed in Gilgal. So here we got the first time that Saul does something as king. Remember, he was made king, and then he goes and he saves these people who were trapped by the Ammonites. And Saul goes and fights the Ammonites, and his kingship is renewed there, so people know who he is. And that he did this, that makes his fame even more. Then Samuel testifies of his own just dealings in Israel. He reproves the people for their ingratitude. He exhorts them to keep the commandments unless the Lord consume them and their king. I think this is, it's interesting we don't read this chapter, but it is an interesting chapter as well. Samuel is warning them again. He's warned them before they have a king. Now he's warning them after the important things that they do, including keep the commandments. And think of what we just read. The king Saul has already broken that the commandments, by offering those offerings. So next time we'll see how that goes a little bit more and what happens as Saul grows into his kingship and David comes into the picture.